Good evening, viewers.
Good evening, ma'am.
Many thanks for the organizers of the Center for Indic Studies, Indus University, Ahmedabad, for inviting me to share my thoughts to the elite group. Today, I would like to present my analysis on some of the Indus Valley seal symbols. The focus is on the very frequently seen fish symbols inscribed in the Indus Valley or the Harappan seals. Starting with the introduction of seals and my approach in understanding the seals, I proceed the analysis of variants of fish symbol. The seals are exclusive symbolic representation of the process involved in performing yagnas as per Vedas. Hence, the analysis of seal symbols are based on Vedic perspective. I present slide 2. In introduction, I present slide 2.
Outline of the presentation, right?
Yeah. Introduction is about the types of seals, the purpose of seals, and the distribution of seals. Later, I go to the significance of the single horn bull seal. Second point is symbolography in seals. Third point is about fish symbols. They are of two varieties. First one is Meena, the fish belly design, its geometry, significance, and variants. Second type is the stylized fish, its geometry, significance, and its variants. Lastly, symbols of Hotraka and its variants are discussed. Indus Valley seals, though tiny, is packed with lot of history and mystery. Thousands of Harappan seals have been discovered so far, and the majority of seals are with the picture of a single horned bull, which is an extensive subject. The Indus seals, also called Harappan seals, are highly sophisticated heritage artifacts dating as far back as 3,500 years or more. They mirror the religious, social, and the intellectual excellence of the Indus Valley civilization. The seals are made of a type of soft stone called steatite, and many are as tiny as 3 centimeters by 3 centimeters and weighing 9 to 10 grams approximately. They were discovered in the vast expanse of Indus Valley civilization sites, the Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, and the northwestern part of India. These with finely executed carvings are the archaeological proof of the civilization that existed at least 3,500 years back in the land of Bharat. While observing the hundreds of seal pictures, I could notice they were in 3 main varieties. Majority of seals were with a figure of a single horned bull or another animal with symbols inscribed in a line. Secondly, some seals were thematic pictures of some activity depicted without any inscription. Thirdly, some seals were with only symbols inscribed without any figures. Of these types, the seals with the presentation of a single horned bull with a structure in front and symbols inscribed on top were in great numbers. Each of the single horned bull seal involves 3 units that are interlinked. They are the picture of a bull occupying 3/4 area of the seal. Secondly, the structure in front of the bull. And thirdly, the symbols inscribed in the remaining quarter part on top. This indicates that bull is like a linchpin, the significance of which needs to be understood first before interpreting the symbols inscribed. In the past, the approach has been to decipher the symbols in isolation and not in conjunction with the bull and the structure in front. The animal with 1 horn is identifiable physically as a bull and not as a unicorn by the male organ, the hoof structure, and the tail. I present slide 4. It is about my approach. My research work about the Indus started with locating which ancient literary work had the maximum reference to a bull, and the answer was Rig Veda. Tvamagne Vrishabhaha, Agni, you are the bull, is a quote from Rig Veda. The Rig Veda has infinite reference to bull, the Vrishabha, as the priest, or the most important deity, Agni. Carrying forward this concept of Rig Veda, the bull was visualized to be the presentation of the Hotri priest and is as described in Rig Veda. The bull figure in all seals invariably has a unique structure in front, which showed a slender pillar, a half-moon shaped ball, and a square frame peculiarly balanced on the pillar. The bull's mouth was always positioned on top of the square frame structure. The squarish frame on top also showed varying numbers of miniature squares or rectangular designs within. Since bull was not depicted to be eating anything from the bin, nor the bin showed any grass or food in it, the alternate function of the head of the bull for its skull was considered. This led me to deduce that the structure looking like the bin, with the frame always in front of the bull, is related to the speech of the priest, who was the reciter of mantras, stanzas of Vedas in yagnas. Rigveda 10.71 is about Nanam, about how the words of objects and speech got evolved. Prajapati, after the creation, gave the names of objects as words. Sages treasured the words, created the language, structured the words in Chandas meter, and created the Vedic poetry. They disclosed it through their speech to Hotris and other priests. Bull picture is metaphorically used in seals to symbolize the Purohita, the priest who was the well-wisher of the society in Vedic period and was also the most important person. Now focusing on the first picture about the structure in front of the bull, the structure of half-moon shaped ball balanced on a slender pillar and a square frame on top was deduced to be the graphical representation of the structure of work. The speech arises from breath, and breath is like the pillar of support to speech. This is depicted as a slender pillar supporting the ball. The half-moon shaped ball containing the words is called Vagambrina. In Sanskrit, Vak is words, Ambrina means a ball. The knowledge of infinite words were given by the deity Prajapati in a mixed form, which were treasured by the sages in the Ambrina ball. The square frame above it shows lines with arrangements of smaller squares. The small squares in each line represent series of words making the sentences or the lines of the stanzas of Vedic poetry. The smaller squares in varying numbers arranged within each line is connected to the structure of the Chandas pattern, that is the meter of Vedic poetry. A combination of words in varying numbers and varied number of lines in a square frame represents the 7 meters of Vedic poetry, which the Hotri priest recited. Hence, the entire structure in front of the bull is the structure of literary intricacies of Chandas pattern of Vedic poetry. The other picture is about while attempting to understand the hundreds of symbols in seal pictures, I was amazed to see the picture of a bird altar called Senachiti or Chayanayaga in the 2 seals. It was inscribed as a symbol. One of the seal is excavated from Dholavira. I could guess that when a fire altar is presented, the theme of the seal is connected to yagnas. I could also identify many accessories like the containers called sthali, the patras, the ladles, and many such articles used only during Vedic yagna ritual. They are inscribed as symbols in a miniature form. Through constant interlinked references between the seals and the multiple books related to Vedas and ritual dictionaries, I could understand that seals are related to the rituals of Vedic yagnas, the performance of which was mandatory in ancient Vedic period. Many seals depict the figures of deities, priests, episodes of Rig Veda in picture form. They were meant to convey specific information about the Vedic yagnas, which are the socio-religious practices of Vedic age. The Vedic period, which witnessed the peak of poetic skills emerging as Vedas, appeared to be the inspiration for the making of seals. The seals look more like the archaeological data of the literary compilations of the ancient civilization. In other words, seals are a faithful representation of the contents of Vedas through symbols, and nothing appears to be beyond the scope of Vedas. The most significant understanding was that the single-horned bull seal, showing 3 units, the script, the animal, and the work structure in front are interlinked. Hence, the seal has to be analyzed with a holistic approach and not as separate parts. Now, understanding why are the seals so small? What was the intention behind making the seals so small? The probable answer is they were meant for an average reading level that could be handled with ease. The extreme brevity of symbols, 2 to 7 in number, is an obvious indication that they are not about a script story or language intricacies. They were probably meant to convey specific coded information for people who could gather information from it. Since deities and yagna accessories are amongst the symbols inscribed, it was meant for the priests or performers of yagna rituals who were initiated into the field of Vedas and the related rituals. The 3 by 3 centimeter size served the intended purpose. The more oversized seals would have been bulky, heavy, and tended to break the stone slabs while carving or transporting them from place to place, or even while storing them. The seals were probably meant only to give some lead information in a coded form about the recitational and ritualistic specifications like the chandas pattern, the deity invoked, and the accessories used in a yagna. Now coming to the distribution of seals, I present slide 5. Slide 5. A mysterious question was why so many seals were found in the present Harappa Mohenjo-daro areas. Rigveda Mandala 7 gives the details of the battle of Dashahotris fought on the banks of river Ravi. It was called Parushni before. Of the several conflicts encountered between Aryas and Dasyus, the Dashahotris battle described in Rigveda Mandala 7 is significant. Bharata clan was headed by King Surdas. The Arya power involved prominent kings of the chieftains, the Bhrugus, Anus, Druhyus, Purus, Yadus on one side. Rigveda Mandala 7.18.6 quotes about the Anaryas of Dasyus. Apaktaso, Bhalanaso, Ananta, Alinaso, Vishaninaha, Shivasaha. Anaryas or Dasyus were the opposers of Bharata clan. They came together on the other side of river Sindhu. They were called Paktas, the Bhalanas, the Alinas, the Vishanins, and the Shivas in Rigveda. Rigveda also mentions about these Dasyus, the Anarya tribes, and the regions to the west of river Sindhu occupied by them. The main difference between Aryas and Dasyus was the difference in religion. Significantly, a constant reference is made in Rigveda, and the battle was intended to defeat the non-followers of Arya Dharma. Aryas of Bharata clan, well protected by deity Indra and Agni, were victorious in the Dashahotris war. The Dasyu force abandoned all their holdings, the forts and wealth to Aryas and migrated away from the region. The Arya culture was propagated in the acquired land. Vedic rituals and yagnas were performed there by the priestly caste. A possible explanation for the finding of Vedic culture in these areas can be speculated that there were far fewer schools and master priests in the newly occupied regions. The seals were used as informative slabs in coded form to be used as a reference. It was used mostly by the upcoming priests and practitioners of Vedic yagnas for a flawless performance of Vedic rituals. For this reason, the seals were made small and light in weight so that transportation and storing of it was more accessible. I present slide 6 now for symbol inscription. Slide 6. The astonishing features of the tiny seals and symbols are, firstly, standardization technique in inscribing the symbol representation within the two imaginary lines because the size of seals were small. Secondly, the neatness and refinement in the execution of a youthful animal figure and the structure in front of the seals. The brevity and coded forms of symbols are like precursor to the post-Vedic sutra literature. Some symbols are repeatedly used in seals, while some are rarely used. The inscribed symbols looking like the script of an unknown language are around 400 or more signs. Some are basic signs to which additional marks were attached. The repetition of similar symbols was also seen in seals. Even the signboard of Dholavira depicts repetition of the same symbol. A study of seals revealed that signs inscribed convey specific information because the script of the language was not yet evolved. The symbols could not be read either as a word or a sentence because they did not show the consistency in appearance or repetitions. Hence, they may not be the script's alphabets and it is hard to find identical seals. Now, understanding what is symbolography. The inscriptions on Indus seals are symbolic in their presentation. Chambers Dictionary defines symbolography as the writing of symbolic characters and tracing the symbolic figures. Symbolic means representing ideas through signs, a system of some symbols written or represented by custom or convention to represent a theme. Each symbol in the seal has distinctive data and does not link to the preceding or the succeeding symbol for linguistic sequence. When presented looking like writing, a study of such a sequence of symbols is called symbolography. The symbols could be read either from left to right or from right to left. They mean the same as each symbol denotes specific data related to rituals. It matches with the accessories used in a yagna as detailed in Yajurveda. An inquiry into why they were represented like symbols revealed that the script of Vedic Sanskrit was yet to evolve. Vedas were propagated only through oral traditions. But the recitation of Vedic stanzas in a perfect way was mandatory. Measures were adopted through coded symbols in seals to convey the vast ritual-based knowledge. They were of great use only to the priests initiated into the Vedic Shiksha because they received training in both recitational and performance fields of yagnas. I present slide 7. I now proceed to the fish design inscribed as a symbol in the seals. Now slide 7 is geometrical construction of Meena Pattern. Some symbols are in the shape of the belly of a fish and some symbols are like the stylized fish symbol that are repeatedly seen in the seals. Interestingly, they observe perfect geometrical construction of circle geometry. The knowledge of geometry of structures, Kshetra Ganita, as it was called, was followed in Vedic period. Geometry was required for the construction of the bricks of the altars and other constructions. The measurements were contained in the ancient post-Vedic text on Vedic mathematics called Shilpa Sutra. It means geometry was a well-established subject and observed in every construction during Vedic period, and the knowledge of which got documented later. The compilation of Bauddhaya Shilpa Sutra dates back to 8th to 5th century BCE. It has the reference to Meena, the fish design, as a geometrical construction. Shilpa means to measure. The tools used in ancient period were a pin, a cord, a measuring tape or rope for the perimeters, called Rajju, and the scale was a bamboo piece with measured holes. The perfection in different measurements that can be seen in Indus Valley site are according to the geometrical measurements. Geometrical shapes, the square, rectangle, trapezium, circles are inscribed as miniature symbols on the seals are also in perfect measurements. I realized that many symbols of geometric construction only when I enlarged the picture and tried to follow the design construction with a compass, following the explanation of books on Shilpa Sutra by Dr. Saraswati Amma. Now coming to the geometry of Meena, the fish belly design from circle geometry. In philosophical perspectives, the circles represent the power of mystic wholeness. Now, regarding the construction of the structure, draw a circle with A as center and mark the diameter BAC. With C as center, draw another cloning circle and mark the intersection points of circles as X and Y. Now, AYCX is called Meena, that resembles the shape of the belly of a fish, or the almond shape that stands to represent the sacred space in general. It is popularly called mandorla in Italian language. Bodhayana Shilpa Sutra, chapter 1.22 to 25 explains the geometric construction of Meena, the fish belly design, is from two circles called mandalas of the same diameter when they overlap. The center of one circle lies on the circumference of the other. It results in a fish belly design, which in later texts on geometry was called Meena in Sanskrit. This geometry of Meena with overlapping circles creating a frame for sacred space has been used in many symbols of the Indus Hills to convey the space of heaven, sky, the firmament, and the earth. This Meena shape was also used to make containers to offer oblations to God. Now we can observe how the basic design of Meena is in various forms with appendages or multiple figures. They all represent the constant value of a sacred space. Also, a container in this shape is prescribed to hold auspicious offerings to deities. I present some symbols that are variants of Meena design. The terminologies given to symbols are from the book, The Dictionary of Vedic Rituals, based on Shrauta and Druhya Sutras by Chitrabhanu Singh. I present slide 8. Slide 8. The basic design of Meena is used both as a single structure and the interlaced double structure. Firstly, I present only the symbols with single Meena structure. The first picture of slide 8 is the representation of a ritual called Indra Turiya. The Vedic story related is when Prajapati distributed the wealth to all three worlds, there was a fight from demons and they troubled humans from all four sides. Indra and Agni consulted each other and decided to hurl thunderbolts on them. God of fire Agni indicated that he would cover three sides, while Indra would cover the fourth top side called Turiya. Thus, the three shares of oblation of the cake offered to the two deities made of pounded grains called Purodasha were for Agni, and 3/4 part was for Agni and 1/4 part Turiya was for Indra. Hence the name Indra Turiya for this ritual. And this is depicted as a symbol in the seal. The drawing of dividing 1/4 and 3/4 in the symbol observes geometrical construction. Indra Turiya is an almond-shaped symbol indicative of a ritual performance in Soma Yagna to invoke Indra and Agni along with the chanting of mantras by four priests. The second picture is called Palasha Patra. It is a container made of Palasha wood. It is used to place the three pindas, rice offerings for Pitrus or mains of all three generations and offered in Dakshinagni fire during Mahapitru Yagna. The seal depicting this Palasha Patra symbol had only one other symbol, which was the bow-shaped altar of Dakshinagni. This indicates food cooked for Pitrus in Dakshinagni and offered in Palasha Patra. The third picture is a floating spoon without a handle called Pariplava. Offering was made to the deity Soma, eulogized as the god of Buddhi. Soma indicated by the Soma twig inside the Pariplava Patra. The container is made of Vikantaka wood. It is used to draw Soma juice from the big container called Drona Kalasha. The four strokes on the four sides of the symbol indicate oblations offered to the consort deities. The fourth symbol represents the Vedic deity Apanampat, which is described in Rig Veda. Apanampat is a form of Agni latent in rainwater like lightning. The symbol is represented in seals with an agricultural theme. Apa is rainwater. Sky is shown in the top part of the symbol in Meena design as a sacred place. What is that water which falls? It enters all the moving and non-moving ones like plants and animals and moves further within. It fills the plowed furrows and gives good returns from trees and plants. The symbol is a compound design of 3 units, the sky on top, the furrows, and the base plow. I present slide 9 now. In slide 9, we can look into the symbols where 2 interlaced Meena designs are depicted in seals. Before this, it will be interesting to note the geometric construction of overlapping Meena designs. Now, coming to the construction of interlaced Meena pattern, the construction method is draw 2 overlapping circles with center points A and C. These circles intersect at P and Q to get the Meena design PAQC. Now, Z is the midpoint of the radius of the first circle AC. And point F is the midpoint of the radius of the second circle CD. With Z and F as centers and keeping the same radius, draw 2 arcs on circles and mark the intersecting points R and S. Now, PAQC and RZFS are the 2 interlacing Meena designs in almond shape that are symbolic of heaven and earth. In between these spaces, a small Meena design emerges that presents the mid-zone sky or the firmament. I present slide 10 now. Slide 10 is the variants of dual structures of Meena pattern. The first symbol of the variant picture in this category is the representation of the Vedic deity Dyava Prithvi. Each of the Meena or almond-shaped frame refers to sacred space. Rigveda 1.164.33 quotes about the most ancient pair. Rigveda says, Dhyayus, heaven, is my father, my begetter, kinship is here. This great earth is my mother and kin. Between the widespread world halves is the birthplace of firmament, the sky. When 2 similar Meena designs representing heaven and earth are overlapped, a smaller Meena pattern in between appears that represents firmament. Though the structures for both are the same for heaven and earth, heaven represents the male principle or the father, and earth represents the feminine principle, the mother. This concept of circle geometry is personified into deities, and in total, it is a symbol of Vedic goddess Dyava Prithvi. Another philosophical expression of Dyava Prithvi symbol is the representation of cosmic womb of Aditi, the earth goddess. Now about the second symbol, it represents Mithuna. Mithuna is the intertwining and integration of 2 almond-shaped designs to symbolize the union of male and female principles at human level. The Vedic ritual, Vishuvat, or the spring solstice, is a great observance called Mahavrata. On the previous day of solstice, several sports events were enjoyed. Mithuna is one act of Mahavrata where a man and woman, both strangers, are involved in sexual union in the screen shed called Parishita. The union of heaven and earth, after being created by Vishwakarma, was conceived as the act of cosmic union at macrocosmic level. This was glorified and mimicked at microcosmic level in the copulation of man and woman who are strangers. This is symbolically depicted in a seal as Mithuna symbol, and the other symbols of the seal correlate with the details of Mahavrata ritual. I present slide 11 now. Slide 11, it is the third picture, is the two Meena designs, one inside the other. It's a symbolic representation of Shmashana for cremation. Many seals show the symbol of Shmashana. Shmashana is depicted as two Meena designs, big and small, one inside the other. Shmashana is a place where death rituals are performed. It is indicative of the movement of the dead physical body from matter to the spirit life, and hence Shmashana was also a sacred space. It is getting back to the Garbha of Earth Goddess. The journey is indicated through a symbol of Shmashana that is deeply embedded in world culture. Mathematics and geometry can take beyond the ordinary limits to the cosmic depths and hence are considered sacred geometry. Shmashana, an elevated place for cremation, was measured using cords and pegs outside the village. A human figure giving measurement is always present in all seals with Shmashana theme. The supportive figure at the base is for the concept of understanding that the symbol of Shmashana was derived from the philosophical perspective worked out by scholars under mathematicians. This supporting picture derives that this symbol is designed like going deeper into the earth, which is the representation of Shmashana. I present slide 12 now. It is to understand the construction drawing of Shmashana. We can look into the geometry involved in the Shmashana construction. Again, it's a series of overlapping circles and arcs as shown in pictures. The perfect curves of two Meena designs, big and small, to represent Shmashana in the seal can happen only with the cord and peg measurement. I move on to slide 13 now. Slide 13 is Agnyagara, the sanctuary of fire. The picture shows three Meena patterns in one symbol. It refers to Agnyagara, the fire sanctuary. It is constructed to the west of Mahavedi, half inside and half outside of Mahavedi, as can be seen in the seal picture. The symbol shows three smaller Meena designs in a row embedded within one big half fish or Meena symbol. This half Meena is called half fish structure in chapter 8 of Apastamba Shilva Sutra. Agnyagara is to separate the three fires in a shed which are preserved. It is also called Agnishala, meaning the sanctuary of fires. The three sacrificial fires called the Ahavaniya, Garapatya and Dakshinagni are present in the fire sanctuary. It just represents the area allotted for preserving the three fires in Agnyagara and not the specific construction of the shape of the three altars. The measurement of space between them is again a geometrical construction using a cord, that is Raju, to establish perfect space measurement. Usually establishing of fire in a Vedi is done only once, and the fire thus installed must be maintained by the priest called Agnidra. If the installed fire gets extinguished, Prayashchitta Homa has to be performed. The three fires, Gharapatya, Ahavaniya and Dakshinagni fires are represented in the seal symbol. Now I proceed to the symbol of the stylized fish and its variants, which is a derivative of Meena geometry. I present slide 14. Slide 14. According to Shilva Sutra, when the Meena design further overlaps with arcs of same radius, the figure of stylized fish emerges. There are over 8 to 9 stylized fish variants in seals, of which I discuss only 5. Before that, it is required to know how stylized fish was structured geometrically from Meena geometry. We now know about X, A, Y, C as Meena. From points X and Y, draw two arcs A, B, C and A, U, C with the same radius. These arcs A, U, C and A, V, C are on the diameter line BAC, create the stylized fish shape as a derivative, which is described in Shilva Sutra. Shilva Sutra says the lenticular portion common to the two intersecting circles has roughly the shape of a fish. I magnified the picture of Meena figure and tried constructing the stylized fish geometry with a compass, which I have presented in slide 14. The Italian term for this geometry of fish is Vesica piscis, also called ichthys, the fish in Italian language. I present slide 15 now. Slide 15. Many seals have even 3 stylized fish in a row. The single-horned bull seal and the other pictures in slide 15 has 3 symbols of fish lined up with variations. Fish is a water animal and fish symbol is indicative of water or liquid medium. While analyzing the rational aspect of this repetition of 3 specific designs, I found the 4th mandala 58 Sukta of Rigveda had stanzas on the significance of milk and its 3 products. They were hot milk, curds and ghee. A comparative work between Rigveda 4.58 and the bull seal picture with 3 fishes gave a clue that the sacred liquid milk is metaphorically and symbolically represented as a stylized fish in the seal. All forms of milk products were the essential ingredients of yajna because Vedic gods favored them. Rigveda 4.58 has 11 stanzas in praise of milk and ghee called Grita, which was the favorite food of Agni. The related story in Rigveda is that Panis, the wicked demon, had stolen the cows and concealed them. With this, the yajna could not be performed because milk was lacking. The universe suffered as it depended on milk as food also. Indra, Surya and Agni fought with the demon Panis and recovered the wealth of cows and restored the performance of Soma Yagnas. Then each of the 3 gods discovered the 3 products of milk liked by them, like the hot milk, curd was curd, and the ghee in triple shapes were created by their own power. The 4th stanza of Rigveda 4.58 quotes, Indra Ekam, Surya Ekam Jajana, Vena Ekam Swadhaya Nishtatakshuhu. It means after recovering the cows from the demon, the gods discovered the triple shape of milk. Indra saw in one shape, Surya saw another form, and the third form was from Vena. Vena is Agni. Milk or dugdha in Sanskrit flowed like rapid river rushing, which Indra liked. Surya in the sky liked the milk in the form of curds called Samnaya in Sanskrit. The clarified butter, Grita, flowed like holy oil stream in yagnas the deity Agni relished. All 3 forms of milk were used as havis, the sacrificial oblations in yagnas to these gods. The 3 auspicious variants of milk products are represented in the seal like 3 variants of stylized fish. Of the 8-9 variants of the stylized fish, I present only 5 symbols. The first 3 stylized fish are seen in the pull seal, and its comparison and analysis is made exactly on the list of milk products, respectively, as said in Rig Veda. This clue is thus a correlation of the literary and archaeological sources. The first fish symbol of the seal is milk, followed by curds and ghee. I present slide 16. Slide 16 is variants of the stylized fish symbol. The first picture of slide 16 represents the symbol of milk, that is a sacred liquid. Milk, called dugdha or kshira, is an essential dravya, a liquid oblation, and all its derivatives were also offered to deities. Stylized fish symbol with a dot in the center represent milk, which Indra liked. Milk was the most sacred liquid in ancient Hindu culture, which is symbolically depicted as a stylized fish with a dot. This analysis is based on the correlation of Rigvedic stanza to the seal picture. Now, picture 2 is Samnaya, curdled milk. To put together a mixture of freshly boiled milk and the sour milk of the preceding night for curdling, make Samnaya, which is curds that Surya, the sky god, liked. While heating is indicated in symbols as a top cover on fish, the inverted design of the upper part of the fish is to represent the curdled and cool state. It is called Samnaya, an important liquid oblation to deity Surya. The third symbol is Ajya, the ghee. When butter is heated and clarified, it is called Ajya, Gruta, or ghee, symbolized in many seals by a fish symbol with a horizontal stroke in the middle. Liquid ghee is also called sarpis, is used in cooking and as well as in Antyeshti death rituals. The analysis of the symbol is, I repeat, it is according to the third state of milk as said in Rig Veda and as described to be the third fish design in the seal. Fourth picture is boiled or hot milk. Symbol of boiled milk or hot milk is indicated as a top cover on the fish symbol. May also be indicative of the pravargya, the boiling milk ritual. Hot milk in inscription part of seal may also indicate about it being consumed as the only food during observance of vrata, the religious observances. The performer of the vrata was permitted to consume only hot milk as food. This symbol hints that top angled cover above the fish is symbolic of heated milk. Now, the fifth picture is Agni Vaishwanara. Vaishwanara Agni is the unseen and unborn form of fire, latent and hidden in all living beings. Agni is waterborne and latent in water as seen in lightning and also in wood that grows from water. Vaishwanara is represented like a stylized fish symbol with a vertical stroke in the middle to represent the unborn stage. As the fish symbolizes element water, also the central rod indicates the fire pillar, the skambha. Rigveda 1 Mandala 1.59.1 quotes about Agni Vaishwanara. Center art thou, Vaishwanara, of the people, sustaining men like deep-founded pillar. Agni in this form is Vaishwanara, which is the thermal heat aspect of Agni. He is related to the fire of digestion in the stomach. He is therefore the sustainer of a life force called prana. Now I present slide 17. Slide 17 is the depiction of Hotri and Hotraka priest. This representation has a number sequence and hence not a geometrical construction. Hotri refers to one of the four principal priests belonging to Rig Veda. He recites the stanzas of Rig Veda in Yagna to invoke gods and also pours the oblation. In the seal picture, Priest Hotri has a seat below him. It's called Dishnya, which indicates that he was earlier in a sitting posture and offering melted ghee. After offering the main oblation of ghee as Ajabhaga, he stands and pronounces the mystical utterances Vashat mantra loudly at the end. Vashat is always uttered in a standing posture called Yajati, as depicted in the second symbol of the seal picture. The chief Hotri announces the designated names of his assistants, Hotrakas, who also join him in uttering Vashat mantras. They are called Vashat Kartris. After this mystical utterance, all the oblations are poured into the fire altar. The main Hotri has a definite number of assistants called Hotrakas in Yagnas. The number of priests partaking in a ritual varies between 4 to 10 or even 60 and differ from one Yagna to the other. In the Indus seals, the main Hotri or Hotraka is depicted in a standing posture, holding the post upright like a mast. The spikes on the post attached shows the number of assistant Hotrakas participating with him. The symbol looks like a post made of timber or mass, a structure held by the Hotri in his right hand. The number of assistants are called Chaturhotri, Panchahotri, Shadhotri, Saptahotri, Ashtahotri, Dashahotri, and so on. In the last picture, the Hotri is holding the post of Chaturhotris. It is to indicate the names of 4 principal priests, Agnyagara, Advaryu, Hotri, and Brahmana, belonging to the 4 Vedas, who are present in the Yagna. All 4 are required in certain rituals of Darsha Purnamasa, the full moon and new moon rituals. The post-like accessory shows the number of Hotrakas reciting the Vashat mantra, which is an important ritual in the end part of Yagna. I present seal 18 now. Seal 18 shows the variants of Hotri depiction. Slide 18 is with assistant Hotrakas. First picture is Panchahotri, that is 5 priests. The morning session of Soma Yagna has 5 Hotri priests participating, which is indicated in a symbolic form here. The second picture is Shadhotris, the 6 priests. They are required in Pashu-related ritual or while an animal is sacrificed. Third picture is Saptahotris, are present in the third pressing of Soma Yagna or in Pravargya fire rituals. They are represented as 7 men in a row in the seal in the personified form of Saptahotris. The fourth picture represents Ashtahotris, the 8 priests who participate in a post-death ritual. Now I present slide 19. Slide 19 is a representation of Dashahotris. Dashahotris are the 10 Hotris identified with 10 different objects that are offered as oblation. 10 priests participate in the big fire rituals like installation of new fire altars. The proof of this reading is in the seal picture marked red, where a bird altar, Senachiti, is indicated in the seal. This seal is excavated from Dholavira. The last picture has another circular fire altar, the round Garapatya fire altar marked in red color. Both seals are related to fire altar installation where Dashahotris participate. Now, coming to conclusion, several themes such as the purpose of making the seals, the class of people using them, and the distribution of seals have been analyzed. The variations from the base design conveying different meanings are also analyzed. Each of the seal symbol has a unique definition or the interpretation of which is such that they hold the same meaning in whichever seal they appear. I have tried to present a categorized understanding of some symbols of Indus seals along with their geometrical construction wherever applicable. Deciphering the symbols has been tough because some symbols are repeated in many seals, while some symbols appear to be one and only representation. Vedic literature, Vedic rituals, and the social pattern of life in Vedic period, when considered, will provide a consistent and meaningful interpretation of the theme of seals. Many discussions are there regarding the reasons for the disappearance of this great ancient civilization of Bharat. I believe it never disappeared, but flowed like underground river in the infinite literary, archaeological, and religious heritage of Bharat, and it continues to flow in this land. Sanatana Dharma is a continuum of Vedic civilization. The homas and yagnas and death rituals are still practiced, and the priests still recite the Vedic stanzas in a flawless way. I have attempted to share the complex symbols through a Vedic perspective. I thank all the participants for the patient listening. All those who are interested to know more about may refer to my books on the Indus Valley seals that are available both as ebook and paperback on Amazon. It's in slide 20. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Ma'am, I have a question. Like you mentioned, three in one of the seals that three petals were there, and these three the different petals symbolizes three different Vedis. Agnihotri, that one is Grahapatya, Dakshina Agni, and the other one. So how you concluded that these three symbolizes the three different Agnihotris, that thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, for this you have to see the plan diagram of Vedic altar as given by scholars. The complete picture of Yagnashala. There, the Mahavedi is there. To the west, half inside and half outside is the Agnishala. Agnishala has all three fires. In the seal, only three sacred spaces for Agnishala is defined, but not the shape of the altars. That is a different construction again. It only represents the space for Agnishala. So it is by studying the picture of Yagnashala, I could understand this is Agnishala.
I asked because recently I was reading a book, as you mentioned, one by Saraswati Amma, and other by Kulkarni, R.P. Kulkarni, sir, the Geometry in Sulb Sutra. So in that book, Kulkarni, sir, mentioned like in Rig Veda, we have mention of the three different Agnis, but the shapes were only later, these shapes were defined. The geometrical constraint that the area should be equal when we transform one shape to
the area was should be equal. That's why a Raju was used to define the space allotted for them. I showed one red circled picture in the last seal that represents the circular Gharapatya. In many seals, the Ahavaniya altar is square. Ahavaniya is clearly depicted, and the bow shaped, half moon shaped altar, that is Dakshinagni, is also in seal symbols. But I could not present all those pictures because I had only 40 or 45 minutes time.
Yeah, I will go through the book. That book I will check.
Ma'am, I have noticed one thing that fish is symbolized as the sapphire, like जैसे वो मनु की कहानी है ना, where in Vishnu Puran the fish is coming and it is saving the whole world. Is it somehow connected with these symbols, or do we get any trace of that story?
Matsyavatara. That is much later than this. This is only to represent the sacred space, the geometry of sacred space, and the fish design is, I have correlated it to what the Rigveda shloka has said. So Matsyavatara is different from this design. fish design in the seals. Seals do not have any avatars in them.
Okay.
They do not show. They show only yagna, the ritual, the small ingredients. The Matsyavatara, it comes in post-Vedic literature. It does not come under Rigvedic frame.
And ma'am,
That doesn't mention much about Dashahotris or anything.
And ma'am, are there any traces of fish offerings to the deities during Harappan civilization? Deities were offered fish.
Deities were offered fish. It could be, but I haven't come across a seal depicting that. There is one fish symbol in which lot of squares are inscribed. That I have referred in my book. That represents, again, there is a type of speech called plutta, which means it goes flowing. When the Hotri recites, it goes very fast, like plutta, like swimming. That is represented in the fish design, which has lot of square symbols in its belly.
Okay.
So fish, that cannot be assumed that it is being offered to a deity. There is one seal with the 3 faces and 1 body bull. The middle one is a fish symbol. It represents the Chandas pattern in which the Hotri is reciting. The priest is reciting. It's not about any fish oblation, offering of.
Namaste, ma'am. It was a pleasure to listen to your talk. I think this topic is very important because it concerns the continuity of our civilization. Whether it is Harappan and Vedic is connected. The question that I had was regarding that, do we have yet any evidence for the decipheration of the Indus script or the Harappan script? Because normally what happens is that we are always relying on the seals in order to show connections between the Harappan and Vedic cultures. Which is definitely a very important part of the evidence. But do we have any other form of evidence, maybe in the form of scripts or something else that shows connections between Harappan and Vedic cultures?
Harappan Vedic is the Vedic civilization existed in Harappa area also, because as I said in Dasharagna war, the Aryas moved. They occupied the newly acquired land and they practiced yagnas there. Vedic civilization got established in that part of the other side of Indus river. So this is the Dasharagna war, the details of Rigveda Mandala 5 and 7 gives a picture how, what was the area occupied, who were defeated, who were Aryas, how did they establish Arya culture there. So this is one of the proofs. And the shloka, the stanza which I said, Apakthasa, Bhalanasa, Alinasa, that also represents, though Pakthasa or Balinasa sound somewhat like Pakistan and Balochistan, but it may not be, it may be, it is a later term, definitely. But Rigveda has mention of these tribes, the Dasyu tribes, the Anarya tribes, who were not harmonizing with the Vedic tribes. So there was a war, they occupied that land and Vedic culture was there in that part of the land. So this is the, of course, what is said in Rigveda cannot be denied. And I have followed only Rig and Yajurveda for this analysis.
But this conflict was within the fold of the Vedic people, not like with outsiders, right?
It is actually in Manusmriti, the area of Aryavata is defined that it is to the east of Indus River. The Arya, the area of Rajasthan, river Saraswati and Rishabvati, the whole basin area was Brahmarshi Desha. That's where sages lived. The people around the 10 chieftains or the 10 tribes who followed Arya culture were Aryas. They all were called Aryas in total because they followed the Vedic Dharma. The non-followers of Vedic Dharma were called Anaryas or Dasyus. Don't confuse with Dasa. Dasa is different term. Anaryas or Dasyus are one. There was a fight between Dasyus, Anaryas, Dasyus, and the Aryas. Yeah, that's how the war is described in 7th mandala of Rig Veda.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. But is this does it have to do with the fact that the Anaryas had fallen from the conduct that was expected of the Arya culture, or is it something to do with like a different race people, or different outsiders? Were they outsiders, or were they people within the Vedic culture who had fallen from the Vedic conduct, the code of conduct?
No, they were different tribes. That's why they are called Anaryas in Rig Veda. The
Okay.
specific term is there, Anaryas and Dasyu or Dasyu. They had a different speech. They could not speak Sanskrit. Mrudvachana, it's called. They could not speak this language. They could not accept the Vedic deities. They had Soma, but they consumed it for themselves. They did not offer it to Indra or Vedic deities first. That's why there was a clash. Aryas wanted that non-followers of Arya Dharma were giving trouble to these Arya tribes. That's why the war took place. And so many stanzas are there in Rig Veda where the deities Indra and Agni have been repeatedly requested to put the Anarya tribes to an end. That's how the battle was headed by the support of Indra and Agni. So all yagnas were conducted in the name of Indra and Agni. Indra was the prime deity in the beginning part of Rig Veda mandalas. Later on, Rudra gained prominence, no doubt. But initially it was Indra, the prime deity, Indra, Mitra, and Varuna. They were the prime deities.
Because the reason I was asking this was because generally Arya symbolizes a noble person, like it means a noble conduct. So by logic, I thought that if somebody is like un-Arya, so they are not worthy of noble conduct. So that's why they are like not. It is part of the same culture, but it's just that a person who is not following the Vedic conduct is.
Vedic culture. Vedic people had their own righteous patterns, right way of living patterns. They were not following that pattern. And another proof which I can give you is the black buck, the deer, they roamed about only in the land of Bharat, in the upper part of, on the eastern side of river Sindhu. They never moved to the region where Anaryas were there. This is one proof that where the black buck deer never roamed, that place was not considered as auspicious or good for Arya tribes.
So you're saying that basically this conflict is also a geographical conflict. So basically there was a territorial place where the Anaryas were living and the Aryas were in a separate geographical territory. Because until now, I assumed that this was more of a symbolic conflict between people who were following the Vedic conduct and those who were not following. But from what I gather from what you're saying is that this was also a geographical conflict, if I understand correctly.
The newly acquired land was acquired. The area got extended, and it became probably even Manusmriti quotes what is Bharatavarsha and Akhanda Bharat. The area got extended so much in all the regions. The priests who moved there, they performed Vedic rituals and established Arya Dharma there. That's how the map of India got extended. In the Manusmriti describes it, the land is limited up to Vindhyas Devi, because down south there was no conflict between Aryas and Anaryas. Though those people down the Vindhya ranges were also followers of Arya Dharma. So they never fought with the southern regions of Bharat. The only trouble was from the other side of Anarya. So the battle, of course, it is described in Rig Veda. We can't deny what is described in Rig Veda. We are followers of Rig Veda. We follow, and it is a historical, socio-religious text, the root fundamental source of Hinduism.
Ma'am, what were the applications of this Indus hills, and through which material were these seals made? How were they made actually? What was the material through which these seals were made?
Material is a soap type of soapstone called solstone. Sorry. It's a type of soapstone which was available in that part of the Bharat. So they were like slabs, sheets of stones. They cut the stones and made it because when it was cut freshly, it was very soft and they could draw designs on it very easily. It hardened with time. After carving, it was treated and a glazed finish was given. Some seals, one or two seals are there, metallic. I don't know whether it is exactly the same period or the later ones. But mostly it is made up of soapstone.
And ma'am, are these seals found randomly in different places, or they were just continuously widespread throughout the civilization?
Harappa what the great scholars have contributed is they found more than 400 seals in one house in the Harappa area, Harappa Mohenjo-daro area. In one building, it was all stored. That was called the citadel. So the seals are distributed in many places. Many Indus sites have seals. But in my studies, more number of seals were in Harappa Mohenjo-daro area, especially the bull seals and the animal seals. We are yet to get many more. They are getting excavated only now. So I'm not very sure about how much is distributed in which area. Like one seal I showed you, the Dashahotri, that is from Dholavira. The same seal is there in Mohenjo-daro also.
And ma'am, what class of people they made use of these seals?
It was exclusively for priests who were initiated into the knowledge of Vedas, because only those people could understand what is indicated in the seal. For example, by looking into I told you about the Chandas frame in front of the bull. Each deity has a different Chandas. By looking into the Chandas pattern, they could, the upcoming priest could understand which meter, that means which part of Rigveda is to be recited for this particular yajna. And the bull is analyzed. I have presented a full lecture for Ministry of Culture. How bull is a priest. It's a complete discussion. I think it's a very long topic. The horn, the mark on the bull, everything depicts. Bull is a metaphoric representation of a priest. And whatever he recites about the yajna, that is what milk is to be, what offering is to be given. It can be milk, curds, or purodasha, or grains, or anything. And what deity is invoked, when it is performed, whether it is done on full moon or new moon or in a continuous way, all those informations are depicted in the inscribed part. There are short strokes ranging between 1 to 14, 15, even 20 is there, 21. So these represent number of days for which the yajna was conducted. So all these details are understandable only to the priest who had undergone training in this Vedic Vedanga Shikshana.
And ma'am, some of the bulls are single horned and some are double horned. So is there any difference of, does they indicate different things, the two horned ones?
Yeah, definitely. Single horned bull is a metaphoric representation of priest.
Okay.
The celestial priest as well as the Hotri priest. So single horned bull seals are different. The double horned bull is not the representation of a priest. It represents something else because it doesn't have the structure in front. That means that bull symbol, it's not a priest, he is not reciting anything there. It just shows some yajna, some part of the details. They are released. A bull was released after the completion of yajna. It symbolizes that. It's called Vrishotsarga. So they are very different. They are not the same. Whether double horn is not a metaphoric comparison. It's an actual indication. Single horn bull is a metaphoric comparison.
Okay. Ma'am, is there any evidence of fishing practices in the material culture of the Indus Valley tradition? Any fishing practices found? Yeah, fishing tools like that. They were.
Yeah, I went through Dr. Rekha Rao's book. He has quoted in the Bet Dwarka excavations, the fishing, the tools, everything he has recorded in the book. Small. There was fishing was there, but nothing is mentioned in Rigveda about whether they were eating fish or the grains mentioned are barley, rice. That's all, and they were sacrificing goat. Meat was also consumed. Of course, beyond that, I'm not sure how they caught fish or whether it was offered to deities. That part I have not studied.
Vaishnavi ji has asked a question in the chat box. What could be the usage of uninscribed seals?
Uninscribed seals, they depict. There are so many episodes in Rig Veda. Like one picture of there is one deity Indra. There are several stanzas in Rig Veda which explains how Indra consumed trikadrukas. That means three beakers full of soma, and his stomach was swollen like an ocean. That whole description is depicted in a pictorial form. Indra is sitting, he is with the Vajrabahu, the serrated arms, and his stomach is really huge. It is a comparison to the shloka, what is said in Rig Veda, that his Indra's stomach belly was like an ocean. So for those pictorial representation, it is related to that description of Rig Veda. As we all know, Rig Veda is full of similes and metaphors. Many parts are just given in a pictorial form.